Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today's video is kind of going to be a wrap-up of Set 10. I just want to talk about how interesting of a format this has been. I mean, so many different iconic things happened in Set 10, and we're going to talk about all that in today's video. And I do have a special guest today, someone that I brought on for a few reasons, one of which he's on record multiple times saying that Set 10 is one of his favorite formats, if not his favorite format. And secondly, this is someone that you should just be hearing from all the time. I mean, he started streaming, started doing a lot more content. I'm really glad he did that. Marcus, say what's up.
What's up, guys?
So we're here today to talk about Set 10 for the reasons I mentioned. A lot of crazy stuff has happened during this set. It's been a great set in our opinion, and yeah, I want to talk about it. So first thing, guys, go follow Marcus on Twitch. He is consistently streaming Dragon Ball Super Tuesday through Friday. The link will be down in the description below, and it's a really good time, man. I'm always in there hanging out weekday nights. Marcus, how's the streaming going for you? I mean, I know you've been enjoying it, but talk about it a little bit.
It's been going really good. I have a ton of fun doing it, and I get to play, Dragon Ball pretty much every day. It's been a lot of fun, and it's really cool to have guests come on there and guide me through my plays and stuff. You'd be surprised at how many good players hang out in chat. I'm learning stuff all the time playing there, and Twitch chat's always bullying me with my misplays, of course, but it's always a good time. So come by and have fun.
Awesome, man. And I just realized how dumb I am. My face is covering the Twitch link on the screen. But once again, guys, it will be down in the description below. So make sure to go to the description and click on Marcus's Twitch link. Give him a follow and check it out because it's a really, really good time. But with that being said, I do want to start talking about the Set 10 stuff. So Set 10, one of the reasons why this format was so crazy was COVID. It obviously changed the entire landscape of the tournament scene. I mean, we didn't have any IRL premier tournaments, but I think it was so cool how we were able to pull together as a community. We had a lot of the major online tournaments with like PPG, Core TCG, Top Cut events, but then we even had like Marcus and Dalen, for example. They threw the All-Star Showdown, and some people weren't in love with the All-Star Showdown being an invite-only tournament, but the way I explained it in a previous video was that, we've had open tournaments throughout the game's entire existence. That's generally the main way that TCG tournaments are ran. But I thought it was cool for this one event to have like an invite tournament only, and to showcase some of the best players in the game. So Marcus, talk about how COVID has impacted the game for you in that way.
Yeah, COVID definitely changed the game for me because, locals pretty much disappeared. I'm from California, and they shut down all our locals. It's pretty much non-existent and has been non-existent for the past 6 months now. It's a pretty long time. And you tell that to anybody that, your card game won't be played in person for 6 months, you would say, well, that card game is going to fail. But luckily, I think COVID in a way has kind of blessed Dragon Ball as well, because it pushed for people to play online. And I feel like now we have a stronger online presence of Dragon Ball players. There's always games going on Untap, and it's full of people too. And in combination with these online tournaments, I feel like it kind of pushed people to play online a bit more. Thus, we're always playing Dragon Ball now, which is a good thing for the game.
Yeah, the lack of locals too was a really big thing, because I was going to locals like 2 days a week when I was living in Boston, but then COVID happened. I moved back home to Jersey, and there was no local to be found. That was pretty unfortunate, but I will say, in a way, COVID did do some good for the game, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was also one of the pushing factors that led you to start streaming, and you've been doing it very consistently. So I guess that free time there is kind of nice in a way, but I am definitely excited to get back to some IRL gameplay for sure.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, if it was not for COVID, I probably would have not thought about streaming because of the time requirement, but at the same time, I mean, yeah, because of it, I get to stream now and kind of involve myself more with the content creation side of things. So it's been a interesting time for sure, but I definitely can't wait to go back and play in real life events and participate in these big regional events and stuff. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, I didn't think we'd be going this long of having everything be shut down, right? I mean, we're going on, what is it roughly 6 months now of everything being shut down? And I really didn't think it'd be going this long. So how do we bounce back from this? I mean, we've had some smaller, like the New Jersey 1K, for example. They've been firing consistently, getting about 40-50 players. Do you think we just like slowly creep back up to these large numbers of players, or what do you think?
I think so. I think as the industry in general for social gatherings kind of start creeping back up, then more tournament organizers might feel comfortable doing such things, because the last thing you want is to announce a tournament and then have it be canceled, right? Because we can't gather due to laws and regulations. But once we see that there's concerts going on and football games have packed stadiums again, then maybe Bandai might be like, okay, it's time to run regionals again, and we start getting these events where we could have large gatherings. But I do think in the meantime, small local shops will definitely push whatever they can and host smaller scale events and just kind of go about it that way.
Yeah, and just wrapping up this topic, I was actually really scared at the beginning that a lot of local game stores would go out of business from this whole thing, and I'm sure a lot of them did, unfortunately. But I know, like, my local back in Boston, for example, they were still open for like curbside pickup of product, and stuff like that was really nice to see. So, luckily we have all persevered, and even some great things have happened, even though COVID impacted the game in that way. So, next thing I want to talk about with you, Marcus, we obviously have had Unison be introduced in the game for the first time in set 10. That was like the whole thing of set 10, introducing Unison to the game. And it's been really interesting. I've heard people say that it was a great thing for the game. I've heard people say that it was a really broken mechanic introduced to the game. My opinion, I think it actually is a great mechanic for the game. I think it was introduced very, very well, in the sense that it gives you another means of interaction, but also one less mean of interaction. And what I mean by that is, going back to like set 9 and beyond, once we really got like a rival and a lot of counterplays, which I did think were great for the game, because making the game more interactive, I think, makes it more skill intensive. But it was kind of like at every corner, if you attacked with the battle card, it was never safe to go in for a game. And that was a pretty scary thing as a player. So Unison gave you another method of attacking without having to worry about too much interaction like that. But also, the thing I like about it too is that they eat up a lot of attacks, right? They eat up a lot of attacks that don't go towards your leader. It's almost like a secondary leader that your opponent sometimes just has to get rid of before they can safely go for games. So I think those are just a few reasons why I think they've been really positive for the game. But Marcus, what do you think about Unison so far, one set into them?
I personally love them a lot. It's funny because when they got revealed, I was kind of against it. I kind of did not like it. I thought it was kind of copying too many mechanics from like Magic, just trying too hard to introduce new gameplay mechanics, and I was kind of shying away from it, and I had these negative feelings towards it. But as I played them, I realized how fun they are, and it definitely, no doubt, changed the game. I mean, you cannot deny that part, right? Like, the strategies to the game changed. They released a lot of cards that synergize with them, and albeit powerful cards, so now you have to play the Unisons as well. But one of my favorite things about the Unisons is that they're so well designed in the fact that they have early turn effects and then late turn effects. So if you're playing against a Unison, you have to make that decision. Am I going to let this Unison get up in power and pull off its ultimate, skill, or am I going to, kill it now, but then let their leader still arrive? So like, it just adds this complexity to the game that definitely changes the game to not be so cookie cutter turn by turn plays. And you can't script the plays now because of the Unisons. They changed the game dynamic so much. So I'm very happy with them, and I like them a lot.
It's so funny how you say you weren't a fan of them in the beginning, because I still remember you building yellow Gotenks like on stream and with the team and stuff, and you only wanted to play like 2 Unisons, and then for a while you played like no Unisons. You're like, I don't need Unison in this deck. But then you just realize like how strong they are. And I think one of the strongest things about Unison actually is the fact that they bring along the free counterplays. Like, we come from a format of like Surge format where 2-drop extra card counterplays were really powerful. Denial of Hope, Hidden Power, and Hidden Potential. And those cards were so good, but now we got Unisons, and we got the free counterplays that came along with those. And I think those are one of the really big driving forces of Unison. And then besides that, like you mentioned before, with like the ultimate effects, you have to kind of, there's like this nuanced thing with Unisons where like, can I kill the Unison in one shot? Okay, great. All right, maybe I can't kill the Unison in one shot. I have to figure out, can I mitigate the markers to a point where, yeah, I don't get that ulti dropped on my face in like a turn or two. So yeah, I do think there's a lot of nuance. I think it adds a lot of skill. Some of them are pretty powerful, but like Marcus said, I think they're designed pretty well. Like, maybe one that's a little too strong, maybe is like meta cooler, where you have, constant card draw as well as spamming tokens. That's a really big plus for 3 energy. But I mean, any card in any mechanic is going to be borderline overpowered, right? So I don't think it's necessarily an inherent problem with Unisons, but I will agree with Marcus that the card design has been absolutely on point. Anything you want to finish up talking about with Unisons?
No, I think we're pretty good there.
Yeah, it's definitely been a big change in the game for sure, but I think it's been a change for the positive, definitely. All right. Next up, if we're talking about the legacy of set 10, we have to talk about Vegex. This deck received a nerf before the set even came out. The Universe 3 cards from Draft Box 5 were just too powerful with the deck. Basically, they let you play a free 15k beater and a free 20k beater with critical after your leader would mill 5 and then already play free battle cards. So it was really aggressive in that regard. They nerfed the Universe 3 stuff. People thought it was going to be fine going into the set, and then we quickly found out that it was just a bit too powerful. It became an aggro powerhouse even without the Universe 3 stuff. Gonna go down as probably one of the most broken decks in the game. Probably not as broken as like Super Shenron or maybe like full power Mecha Frieza, but still, like, the leader and the cards in the main deck generated so much free value that this deck would go on to be hit once again. Oh, and I should mention too that Turles to Ghost Warrior was also hit preemptively because of this deck. So first was the Turles hit, then it was the U3 hit, and then eventually in the format, as it was being played for set 11, they decided to nerf Bibbidi. So one of the strongest decks of all time. Marcus, what do you think about how Vegex impacted the game and how it may perform going forward with the Bibbidi nerf?
Yeah, Vegex was definitely the boogeyman of the format, right? It was the deck to beat. I played it on stream early on when I started my streaming, and I got to experience the U3 version of the deck where I could just spam a bunch of bodies on board. But what is so crazy about this deck is that the leader is inherently giving you so much advantage. It technically, like, every time you flip 5, you put in play at least one card most of the time, right? Unless you're super unlucky. But we saw Justin Rios one time put all 5 cards in play off one leader flip.
I was just about to say, unless you're Justin Rios and flip 5 cards and put them into play.
Right, like, so imagine a leader that just says, you know, every turn when burst 5, draw 4 cards, because you're getting 3 bodies on board most of the time. And that leader, in combination with a super combo that says I could technically get almost infinite power, it's insane. So the deck definitely warped the format. You needed a deck that could either beat Vegex, or you tell yourself, okay, I can't beat Vegex, but I could beat everything else, you know, and just kind of gamble that way. But yeah, Vegex was very powerful, and they nerfed it multiple times, and it was still powerful. And even now with the nerf to Bibbidi, I still think it's not as broken, but a powerful deck. It's definitely not something to just brush off saying, oh, the deck's dead. It's still a very strong aggro deck, because that leader inherently just says draw 1 card, burst 5, and then put in play 2 to 3 bodies on board. So that's a very powerful effect that is kind of timeless, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think with the state it's in now, I think it's going to be something like Yellow Gotenks or like Sin Shenron. These are decks that they top here, they miss top cut there, they top here, they miss top cut there. And I think Vegex is going to be one of those decks going forward with the Bibbidi nerf, because playing with it, with the Bibbidi nerf, it is significantly weaker. But I think we run into the problem of like Super Shenron here, where the leader is just waiting to be broken once again, because, you know, you're playing a mill strategy, and this leader mills the most cards in the game compared to any other leader. So whenever they print a card that is, you know, relatively good or really good in mill, it's going to be extra good in Vegex. So I do think Vegex is a leader waiting to be broken once again. Marcus, what do you think about that, like, comparison to Super Shenron in that way?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, we see a lot of effects come out where they get played from the drop area, for example, or you know, if you have no battle cards in play, you could play something from your drop area, stuff like that. But as the design space grows, there's definitely room for Vegex to be powerful again, especially with cards that utilize the drop area, which seems to be a focal point Bandai is going towards, because we're getting a lot of those effects now.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. I think Bandai's have to keep an eye on Vegex going forward. But regardless, even with Vegex being the powerhouse that it was, this is the top 16 from the PPG online tournament that happened over the weekend. And it was a really diverse tournament. We've had really diverse tournaments. I've been keeping track of it since Super Shenron format, which at this point I think was a year and a half ago, I want to say. So for an entire year and a half, we haven't had a definite tier 0 format. And that makes me really happy, both as a player and a content creator. I mean, I know a lot of people do prefer like the triangle formats where there's like 3 really good decks, because sometimes when there's a really big format like this, it's hard to prepare for everything. But I'm more of the mind that I like when there's a really diverse tournament. I like, you know, having to stay on my toes, for instance, and knowing what a lot of different strategies do. So I'm really happy with the fact that we haven't had a tier 0 format in so long. It's been really, really great to see. So Marcus, what are your overall thoughts of the format? I know you have said multiple times this is one of your favorite, if not your favorite formats. So what really made you enjoy this format?
Yeah, the diversity is definitely one. You look at this graph and there's just so many different leaders where maybe a year ago you look at it, or back in the Shenron Gogeta days you look at it, and it's maybe two or three decks, that are just as popular. But nowadays, I think the main reason why we're having such a diverse format is that a lot of decks are powerful on their own. A lot of decks have the potential to win the game by turn 5. And when you do that to a lot of different decks, you're going to see a lot of different people playing it and a lot of different matchups come up. And that's why I really like the set 10 format, because there's so many decks that could win, and every deck does not have like an auto lose matchup. Every matchup is kind of playable. Sure, you have some bad matchups, like we talked about Vegex, right? But you could still win against any deck out there. Like, for example, I like Zamasu a lot. I played Zamasu all the time, and I thought I had a decent matchup against Vegex, but it still would lose to like Kidku, which is a random deck out there. It's not even on this list right here. But every deck seemed to have at least one or two weaknesses, but it didn't mean they were not playable. So that's what I really like about the format. Almost every deck seemed playable.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, even Vegex, for as powerful as it was, I feel like Green had a really strong matchup against it because of cards like the Bardock patrolling Unison and like Negotiator Krillin just being able to deal with Vivity in the combo step. So I definitely agree with that. A lot of the decks are powerful, and I think there are decks that were strong in this format that weren't even played a lot. Like, I did a video talking about Universe 6 with a lack of red in the format. It seemed like Universe 6 could do a lot of things because they can spam the board really cheaply and efficiently, and without a card like, Exploding Weakness Vegeta in the format, it seemed like a deck like U6 that hasn't been played in several formats could be quite good. I think Toa was really good with the new mirror that came out that comes down for free, and basically for 3 energy you can start your mirror chain instead of turn 4. So I do think I agree with 100% what you're saying, that there are a lot of powerful decks in the game right now. I think the power level is pretty good. I mean, obviously there are outliers. If you look at it in like a graph, like there are some decks that reach higher on the graph, some decks that reach a little bit lower, but I think everything is pretty comparable, and that's what I think Bandai's done a really good job with. I say this a lot, like since set 5, since they printed Gogeta 7, which is now banned, thank goodness, they've done a really good job in the design department. There have been a few hiccups. There was Super Shenron, there was Kaioken 7 Goku, there was Vegex, but those were not as comparable to Gogeta 7 in my opinion. I think that they've done a really good job in the design department, and I agree, that's one of the main reasons I've really liked set 10. So that's pretty much wrapping up the video. Marcus, any final thoughts you want to get out there of what we've talked about today?
Yeah, thanks for watching. Come check out my streams every Tuesday through Friday on twitch.tv/EmperorCouscous, and hopefully we get rid of COVID and can start playing in person again.
100%, man. Again, go to the description, check out Marcus's stream. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.